Today I'm going to take you through my full calisthenics or my handstand warm-up, what I do before every session. Now, quite important, when I started training handstands, I was doing so much and I didn't take warming up seriously at all, which led to a lot of injuries, a lot of wrist and forearm pain. So please, if you're new to handstand or calisthenics training, take your warm-up seriously. Not only is it going to make your session so much better, it's also just going to keep you safe. Now, I love to use bands to get the blood flowing, but it's not essential. I know a lot of people don't have access to bands, so you just want to do something light that will stimulate the blood. So a little bit of jogging, a little bit of light skipping, something nice and easy, and then we're going to get down on the floor. Okay, so bear with me because I don't really know the names of any of these poses, and I'm probably just going to make it up as I go along. But I always like to start with the cobra, and I do a few sets of shoulder protraction at the bottom, just slowly warming up the lower back and getting the shoulders ready. Also, just to note, like in the previous step when you're getting blood flowing, right, depending on the temperature of the day or how I'm feeling, really depends on how long I'm going to do stuff for. If it's a really cold day, maybe I'd walk on the treadmill for like 20 minutes, and if it's a really hot day, then like 2 to 3 minutes of band work and I feel good to go. You just want to get the blood flowing a little bit. After the cobra, we go into the classic downward facing dog, opening up the shoulders a little bit. Now also, the whole idea behind this warm-up is you're not trying to stretch to improve your flexibility. All you're doing is trying to improve the mobility and range of motion in the joint. So there's no real like sets or reps for this. If I'm feeling really stiff on the day, I'm going to take a little bit longer because I want to rid the stiffness of my body. If I'm feeling good, this whole portion might take like just a couple minutes. So you're just trying to get rid of stiffness in the body, improve the range of motion, but you're not actually trying to stretch. Hand supported glute bridges, pretty good for opening up the shoulders and also starting to put some weight on the wrist. Then we're just working on the hamstrings. For a lot of guys, if you have tight hamstrings, when you kick up into a handstand, it can be a limiting factor. So I always like to make sure I've got rid of all the tightness in my hamstrings. Then one of my favorites I got from watching a lot of gymnasts train. Now this helps a lot with improving the mobility in the shoulders. You want to retract the shoulders, push the chest forward and keep the elbows locked, and then you're going to slowly try slide forward. I'll show you from behind you. Over time, you want to work to try to get your hands a bit closer together. So the closer you can get your hands, the better. But once again, we're not trying to like stretch to lose the strength in the muscle. So take this very slowly, just go to where your mobility allows you to. Then heading on to a bit more scapular protraction work, some cat poses. Every time I protract, I also like to lean forward a little bit just to put some weight on the shoulders. Then I go for this funky side to side stretch where I bring each shoulder to the floor. Also always make sure I keep my elbows straight, so slowly load them with a little bit of pressure. Helps prep them for later on. Once again, I'll just show you from the side here. Every time I protract, I just lean forward slightly, just loading up those shoulders, getting them nice and ready for the handstands or planche training, whatever I'm going to do on the day. Now damn, I don't really have a name for this. I guess we can call it the wave push-up. Yeah, I guess the wave push-up, quite self-explanatory. We're doing like a downward dog sort of push-up thing. And then we go into normal push-ups where I just like to re-engage at the bottom, getting the blood pumping into the chest and the shoulders. Now, once again, like with all of this stuff, just do as much as you feel like you need to get your body ready for what you're going to do later on. You don't want to tire or tax yourself out too much. And then same thing applies to this. I'm just opening up my hips. I have super tight hips. If you feel like hips are fine, you don't have to spend as much time working on them. But I like to do, like today I did a bunch of one-arm handstand stuff. So I want to have as wide of a straddle as possible. So for me, working on the hips is very important here. But you get the idea now. So work on your weak areas, get the range of motion better there, but don't do anything that's going to be too taxing or too tiring. But now is the really important stuff, the wrist/forearm prehab, rehab sort of thing. Now, I don't know if any of you have the same experience I have, but when I started doing handstands, I felt like I could just jump into a handstand without warming up and my wrists were fine. But the more I've been doing it, the more I feel like in the beginning my wrists are super fragile and they need a little bit of work before I can actually put on my full body weight. But they're always stronger than they were. So at the same time, they're like weak and fragile without warming up, but once they're warmed up, they feel really good to go. First off, just put my hands down in pretty much every conceivable way I can think of, and just slowly put more and more weight over them. So that's a cool thing about doing this, right? You're in control of how much weight you can put on your hands. So take it slow. As you feel like they're warming up a bit, then you can put more weight on. So after that, I move into the finger pulses, and same thing, I pretty much put my hands in all the positions I did before. So palms facing up, palms facing down, fingers out, fingers in. End with the classic, just hands facing forward. I rock back and forth a little bit, and then I'll go into the finger pulses. And then the last one I say for last, because it's the most strenuous, is when your hands go backwards. I'll also slowly lean back depending on how tight the forearms are feeling, and then once I feel like they've stretched out a little bit, I'll just do 10 also, just quick little finger pulses in that position. To end off the warm-up, I always love going for a handstand regardless of what I'm going to do. Just feel like it's a good way to get the body working together. And there goes the camera. To summarize, while we look at this really blue sky, it's actually pretty wild. But in the beginning, you want to get your blood flowing, just something nice and light. Then you want to work on your mobility, getting rid of any stiffness in the body. Regardless of if you're doing balance or strength training, you don't want your stiffness to be a limiting factor. And once you're taking care of that, you can actually get into more specific drills or exercises for what you're going to train. So it depends on your level. If you're working on the handstand, you can start with handstands against the wall. If you're working on the planche, you can do easier progressions like the tuck planche or the planche lean. It all depends on your level. But in total, you don't want your warm-up to detract from your actual session. You don't want it to tire you out. You just want it to prep you for the workout you're going to do. And there I am. I finally noticed that the camera's gone.